Welcome to STR Intel. I've got Killian Gordon here with me today, and we've also got a special guest, Simon Lehmann. So Simon has flown all the way from Switzerland to meet us out here in little old Colorado Springs, and very special guest. So, we just got back from the VRMA conference, and, Simon was doing quite a bit of fireside chats with, the CEO of HomeAway, the CEO of Expedia, the CEO of Vacasa. And Simon comes from, he's basically the thought leader within the industry. He was the CEO of the largest vacation rental management company in Europe with 48,000 rentals. And, he's also runs a consultancy firm, AJL, which, he helps companies like us scale and try to work out this industry. And it's a very complex industry. And so we're happy to have Simon here with us today. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure. I have never been to Colorado Springs, and I thoroughly enjoyed San Antonio. It's the first in-person conference since New Orleans 2 years ago, and we're all fired up to sort of talk about what has happened and how we can reflect on what was going on during the conference and where we see the trends going. So it's great to be here, and thank you very much for having me.
So I asked you this question earlier. What do you think VRMA is?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in touch with VRMA since probably 2007 when they first came over to Europe as well, to bring vacation rental to Europe. It's the Association of Vacation Rental Managers in the United States, and their duty, they are building the educational platform for vacation rental and property management companies, and that is extremely valuable. So VRMA is an association that everybody can join, literally, in the vacation rental world, who is a professional property management company. Who wants to learn from others, and the conference, the international conference, is the biggest event. So this year there were 1,700 attendants. There is also regional events, there is educational events, and look, they're doing a great job and helping us to elevate the vacation rental industry and become more professional. And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I think the big talk of the town there was whether or not, because we just had an amazing year vacation rental wise. Traveler demand was through the roof after COVID, and or during COVID, really. It was travel for vacation rentals. Travel demand was through the roof, and everyone's wondering, is that going to continue? Is that going to stay the trend? Has the shift happened from hotels to vacation rentals? Is that a trend that's going to continue, and vacation rentals are going to continue to skyrocket? We're going to continue to see crazy prices and occupancy, or do you think that's coming to an end, or that's slowing down, or are we just going to flatline?
We will for sure continue to skyrocket, but there's a lot of work to do in order for keeping those levels in terms of where we came to. One thing I want to mention here. When VRBO came into the market in 2005, the category awareness of vacation rental in the United States was about 5%, right? Pre-COVID, we were at a category awareness of about 33%, 35% of U.S. travelers who rented a property in the United States. Out of 100 travelers, only 33 ever rented a property. Now, post-pandemic, we're at 80%, right?
Wow.
So the business has just gone absolutely berserk. Why? Well, we wanted to get out of our four walls, drive somewhere, and be away from home at a place where we feel home. So we've done that. And that's why the category has created so much awareness. Now, can we keep that tailwind is a big question. And to be perfectly honest to you, I don't think we can keep that tailwind, because we still have a lot of work to do to professionalize vacation rental, to add a lot to our products. And we know why people normally don't rent in the past. Now they rent because of privacy. They rent because of many different reasons, but privacy is one of the biggest things. During COVID, I don't think there were as many people out there who felt comfortable to have breakfast with $300 at the buffet, everybody coughing over it. And now it's about, we captured this awareness, so we created this 80% category awareness, which is absolutely skyrocketing. But I think now the industry is really challenged to sort of lift its professionalism to actually maintain that category awareness and have people come back and not go back to other ways of taking hospitality products.
Yeah, because they're aware doesn't mean they're going to stay and continue to use the product. I mean, to use vacation rentals, it's not implied there. It's totally dependent on us making this a consistent experience, educating people. I mean, what the study we looked at in 2019 was, what was it? 60% of travelers who haven't used vacation rentals, their number one reason for not using vacation rentals was because of safety.
Absolutely. I mean, that's totally crazy then you think about why the 33% who have used vacation rentals, why did they use one? It's because of safety. So it's totally contradictory that people who are aware of the category of vacation rentals, they feel super comfortable in actually renting a property and they feel safe. And the ones who have not done it, they feel unsafe because they don't know what to expect. What kind of services do they get? Where do I get my keys? What do I do with my pet? Can I bring pets? Do I have children's beds? What are the services associated to it? And I think, for us to increase the category awareness or actually remain that category awareness, we need to lift the game in terms of quality, standards, cleanliness. Cleanliness today is still one of the biggest challenges we have in our industry. Deliver consistent quality, cleanliness. How do we clean properties? Is everything in order? And other pieces as well that make people comfortable to actually do a vacation rental. So I think there's still so much work to do. I think we've just benefited massively from people just wanting to be away from home and not go to hotels. So vacation rental is a great choice. But we've seen, let's face it, we've seen surges in RV share. I mean, we've seen surges in camping, glamping, God knows what. I mean, anything that is not a hotel where you share on a small room with many people has had very successful times in 2021. I don't believe that the levels of bookings and the level of occupancies we've seen in 2021 are going to maintain for many reasons. I'm not saying that they're going to plummet immediately. I think people have understood that this is an extreme, fantastic product from a hospitality standpoint. It's a great alternative. People liked outdoors, so all of a sudden people went to the countryside, went hiking. So new markets became more popular. So people actually realized, hey, there's some beautiful countrysides out there. We can spend a beautiful time together with the family. And I think that tailwind we need to capture. And that tailwind we can capture if we know our customers and continue work on the delivery of our product. I think in 2021 the demand was so high that we didn't have to worry that much on execution of our product from a guest experience standpoint. But going forward, I think we have to lift our game to maintain that these customers will come back to the vacation rental industry.
It's almost, if we don't, as property management companies, hospitality companies, if we don't capture on this new market awareness by bringing something 10 times better to the market, it may just go down in 2020, 2021 as a fad where people had to step into the vacation rental market because hotels weren't necessarily an option. So we need to come in there and 2022, we need to think about how do we 10x what was offered to our guests last year so that we don't see this huge new market awareness go to the wayside and people trickle back into old ways of traveling. Would you agree with that? How do you see us capturing and capitalizing on the new market awareness and keeping it, not just retaining it?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think 10X is a bit of a high target. I think we need to learn and understand what our customers needs. And I think with every product, I think the most important thing in our industry, we need to understand our customers. So who are our customers? What made them book a vacation rental? And, what makes them come back to a vacation rental? And what do we need to do with our product for them to come back? I don't think we need to go crazy on the services we offer. I think it's a matter of working together with our service providers in the destination, with the community who are talk to the service providers of tours and activities, make sure you have a compelling product you can offer to people while they're in the destination, And one thing that actually we still work at the basics. What can we do better on the property level in terms of description? How can we harvest the reviews, for example? It's another one. We have great reviews, so we can harvest those and create repeat customers. The biggest problem that vacation rental has, especially in the United States, is that we're heavily dependent on third-party demand, which means we're depending on OTAs, on online travel agents, to bring us bookings for people to come to our industry and to our product. And I think that's where we need to start, to actually build relationships to the people who have had an extremely memorable stay within our property. I mean, let's face it. Staying in a private property is an amazing experience. I have 5 children. I love going to vacation rentals exactly for the purpose that everybody can do whatever they feel like all day long without, having to put like a suit on to go to have breakfast in the morning. You can stay in your jammies around the bar, around the kitchen bar and have breakfast together. The kids are already pulling at 6 o'clock in the morning. They can do what they want. And I think we need to do a better job in actually getting that story known to everybody else in the industry and have them talk about it and have that bring back. I think it's more the experience that we need to be able that is being multiplicated across the different channels and the experiences, more than that we have to lift the services as such for them to come back, because they obviously have accepted, they like the product, what they saw. There's definitely small things we can do better in what we offer in the destination, in the house, some supplies like water and other main supplies when they arrive. But I think overall, the product in itself, as long as the base requirements are met or the base expectations are met, I think we're in a good shape.
These OTAs are very powerful platforms. They're allowing us or a property management company to get the foot in the door with the guest, but it is now time for those property management companies to shoulder the responsibility of really knowing who came through the front door for the first time and what they're going to want and what they're going to need to come back, and making them a repeat customer off of those OTA websites. Like the OTAs here, the OTA heightened the market awareness. They got the first time traveler in the door of a vacation rental, but now it's time for the management company to really dial in who that guest is and figure out, how do I bring that person back, but not necessarily over that OTA?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the great pleasure of interviewing Jeff Hurst, who is the CEO of Expedia and also is responsible for VRBO, which is former HomeAway. And he says, look, I'm totally aware of our customers, which are property managers, who are keen to take these direct conversations with our guests up and have them as coming back on a direct booking. They don't object to that, right? As long as we pay respect to the partnership we have to these OTAs as well. And I think that was a super valid point that Jeff Hurst made in that conversation, and said, look, we want to be treated as partners, and in both ways. We bring you demand, and it's obvious that you want to build a relation to that person who comes to your property, but we will continue to bring demand because our travel behavior has changed. So it's a question of how sticky are we as an operator and as a brand.
Sticky. I've heard you use that word very frequently.
Yeah, sticky means the customer comes back all the time to your place. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you want to call it, our travel behavior has changed. The individual human being in today's world wants to have choice, and having choice is something that a property manager in a certain destination cannot offer, because he's just in that destination. So, he welcomes the guest. Is he coming back the next year? Well, that's questionable, right? Because he might not, because he wants to go to a different place. And it depends on the purpose. Is it ski? They might repeat. If it's a beach place, well, next year we're going to go somewhere else. So I think, we can build that relationship, and we can call up on this customer maybe a year or two later. Maybe he will come back. And the OTA is not going to be mad about that. But we don't have the amount of supply that you need to give a choice to a consumer to say, okay, next year I'm going to go to this destination. Next year I'm going to go to this destination. So I think it's a give and take working with OTAs to make the best work for a property manager in terms of building a relationship, but it doesn't mean that the customer will come back immediately next year.
On the flip side, on the supply side, do you see the rental by owner, the RBO, do you see new supply coming on to use property management or to run it themselves? Because I think right now there's more people that run their own vacation rentals than there are property managers, and I guess it's dependent on each market. But do you see that as a step towards making this more sticky? Is that they use property management services, or do you think it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean that's a very tough question because pre-COVID we would have thought that a lot of RBOs will come and join professionally managed companies. Because it's very difficult and everything else. But now the demand surged, they think, what do I need a property management for? I can run a decent business on my own. Mm-hmm. But ultimately over time, I think the professional managed inventory is going to win over rent by owners. I mean, look, we've seen review comparisons and it says like an individual owner.
Just get closer to your mic. Yeah.
An individual owner,
there you go.
An individual owner can have better reviews than a property manager can. So that's something we can challenge, right? But ultimately, I think there is no one size fits all. I think it really depends on the market. It depends on how you execute and everything else. I would tend to believe that more RBOs are realizing there's other alternatives to distribute your inventory just across one channel. You can do multi-channel distribution. You can apply technologies to have a seamless guest engagement, like automated door locks, like many different technologies you can apply. And I think a professional managed company has more access to this type of technology and knows what they do. So, I would urge in most cases that a rent by owner would be probably better off ultimately to use a professionally managed company to run its inventory or run its listing, because ultimately they will do a better job. Not maybe from day one, depending on the quality of the inventory as well. And I think talking about quality of inventory, I think that's where we're going to see the biggest changes in the future. Mm-hmm. Quality of inventory has to dramatically improve if we want to maintain the tailwind we have seen in 2021 from COVID. So, our vertical needs to improve the quality of the property dramatically if we want to maintain the occupancy levels that we had, because people will not take that against hotel inventory. And for us, that's something that we need to focus on very strongly.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not just glorified cleaners, right?
So, this is something I'm very, passionate about, that we need as an industry in the vacation rental industry. We're doing all this hard work in providing a fantastic guest experience, providing, clean houses, providing, beautiful bed linen and everything else. And I think it's very dangerous if you depended on third-party demand channels like an Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, VRBO, we can be reduced to become glorified cleaning people. And I would basically tell the entire world, be careful of that, because we're far better than that, because we actually do the hard yards. So we actually deliver the guest experience in the destination. And I think we need to do everything possible not to become reduced glorified cleaning people. And one thing that resonated very strongly to me from the conference in San Antonio is that we need to get better, and that's something I've said for years. We need to get better to communicate our value proposition of what vacation rental professional property managers, what's the value proposition is to homeowners and guests. Homeowners just think, well, I'll give my property to you and you just rent it out. Well,
we're running like 7 businesses in one. We've got a revenue management team. We've got a cleaning business. We've got a maintenance business.
Evan, when you had asked Simon, how would you describe the VRMA? My knee-jerk reaction was, well, maybe we should define what a vacation rental property management company is to the people who are listening first, because I fully agree. maybe not long gone are the days, but they're in the review mirror, the days where this industry is kind of the hobby side business where I'm just going to host someone in my home because it's available. You see your interview, and I don't even want to, Jennifer with Homes and Villas from Marriott. This is an industry that's huge education needs to be done, not only in what a professional property management company is, but also the direction that this industry is headed. What other industry do you have to start by so much education? It's such I feel an industry in such its infancy that's so fragmented. The big word that comes to mind is education. The homeowners need education. Even the software companies who are trying to solve problems, the industry is changing so quickly. It's every day is re-education about what the guest wants, the type of guest, where we're going, how to provide a consistent experience across so many properties. It's constant education.
Without using the word Airbnb.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we get going on that, that's a different type of topic. But that was a long, let's say, statement, but also question in a way. Yeah. And, first of all, I would immediately argue we are not in our infancy.
Okay.
Vacation rental, property management is older than the hotel business, number one. There was a guy in San Francisco who said, we innovated shared economy. Well, that's not true, because if we think back in the Stone Ages, I'm literally sure, I can't prove that, but I'm sure we have shared our caves with our colleagues where we were living, right? So we shared our caves while we were hunting out there. And it was raining on our way back to our cave, and somebody else let you in the cave. So we always shared our caves. So therefore, nothing is new about it. I think the question is professionalism, and you touched on education. So I think because it's a very fragmented industry, number one. Number two, it's because we are relying on third-party assets or second-party assets. We don't own any of the properties we're managing. So somebody trusts us to manage their property. And that's where it becomes unique, versus the hotel industry, where mostly there are real estate investors behind investing into a building, and then they put a brand on the roof of the hotel, and off you go and you manage it. Well, we manage thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of individual homes that were bought by people who have, been successful in their career. They've had enough disposable income to buy a second home that they're willing to rent out. So we're dealing with millions of castles of individuals, and we need to take care of those. And I think we finally have just realized how big that vertical really is and what kind of demand we can generate. And in order to do that well, we need to professionalize. And we don't need to just professionalize towards the homeowners and treat them what they deserve because they worked very hard to buy that particular home, and they trust us as an industry to manage those homes for them. And at the same time, we need to do the best to provide the best guest experience for people who come and stay with us. And now this, like with HomeAway going public, it was sold to Expedia in 2015. We've seen an IPO of Airbnb. All of a sudden, this vacation travel vertical becomes one of the hottest verticals in the world because it's big, right? Thousands, millions of units. But all of a sudden you think, okay, it's big and it's growing, but it hasn't really professionalized. And that's something I would totally agree with you, that we haven't professionalized it at scale because of the fragmentation that we have in the markets and everything else. And I think now is the time that if we want to keep up the tailwind and the demand we have seen in 2021, we need to professionalize this business. And we need to be better in delivering solid, consistent guest experiences. And that starts with cleaning, that's with taking photographs, proper photographs of our units. I mean, I can't believe that since 2005 I've been in this industry and we talked about taking good photographs, and we still haven't managed to do that, which is, you consider that the most basics. But, photographing a hotel room in a 400 room building, you need to take one photograph. Well, in our industry, every home is individual. And the individualism is a big challenge for us to deal with also on how to professionalize the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it, when we talk about distributed geography of homes, it's incredibly difficult to manage. I mean, it's, I always say you're managing a hotel, but each room in your hotel is an entire house that's spread across the city or place. I mean, that's incredibly difficult with two different sets of customers, with multiple different platforms you need to manage on. I mean, it's a big challenge. And, we've talked about, what are the tools a property management company needs to do this, from revenue management to trust accounting to guest communications to, all the different subsectors of convergence of different ideas that we need to have to manage this. I mean, it's a challenge we have ahead of us.
Absolutely. And it's a great point you're raising here. And it's, based on what we talked about before in education, I mean, one thing that I always say, you're not going to, whenever you order an Uber, have you ever asked an Uber if he has a driver license? You probably haven't, because you assume he has one, right? And if you're staying with somebody in a property, if it's an individual owner or professionally managed, your guests are not asking, do you have you done a university degree of doing vacation rental? And so we need to do a lot more education, and it's a complex industry to the point that you mentioned. To manage one unit is not too hard. There's platforms where you can list your unit and you will there's demand there, and I think you can manage that overall. And once you will learn how do you want to run your hospitality, what kind of services you want to deliver, what kind of how your apartment looks like, decorations, do you have food there when people arrive? You have whatever. So, you do that on your own choice. But I think when it gets larger, you need to think about technology. You need to think about what kind of technology do I apply to run my business? What channel manager do you use? What PMS do I use? What house automation technology do I use? And it's becoming really complex. And I think that's totally underestimated at large. We know for a fact that technology adoption is one of the biggest challenge that all of these people have in the vacation rental industry. And I would say, once you sort of reach a level of 5 to 10 properties, you need to really think hard, what kind of technology do I apply to run my business? And, there's some amazing technology out there who will help you to create a lot of efficiencies, a better guest experience and everything else. So I think that's something we need to be extremely mindful, but it's a huge challenge. Technology is a huge challenge, but at the same time, it's a massive opportunity as well.
Do you see Hosty as a possible solution to that problem?
Without a doubt. I think,
excellent question, Evan.
Absolutely. One thing that I like about Hosty a lot is that you have mastered how to build a tech stack that works for you and you can scale. So you had to go through some learning curves. You choose some PMSs that didn't work out for you. You choose other technologies. And what I know is that all the technology you choose to start Hosty is not here anymore, maybe with the exception of Slack. And I like that, right? Or maybe Microsoft or whatever, some things that are just here to stay. But the way you decided to run your business and the tech stack that you choose, you had to replace because you needed to learn. So you had to find out what is good for me, what works for us, what works for our growth strategy, what works for our owners, what works for our guests. How can we provide best guest experience, guest communication? What is best for our distribution? What is best for reducing complaints? How do we improve our reviews? And you need to rebuild your entire tech stack. And I think Hosty has done an excellent job in actually going out there, understanding what kind of technology is available, put that together to a state-of-the-art technology stack that now delivers exactly what you like from a hospitality standpoint, but at the same time, it allows you to extremely scale fast your product. And you've shown that in your core market in Colorado Springs, which is very impressive because it's running, right? So how fast you can onboard a property and you make that bookable very, very quickly because you have built a tech stack based on the needs that you have to scale your business. And that's very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of people lose sight of the actual problem we're trying to solve. It's like we're trying to build wealth for our owners through amazing guest experiences. And it's like once you focus on those two things, the path becomes available. And, you develop a culture of constant innovation and improvement, and you just build that into the system, the culture. And it's like you said, like we started off with a tech stack, but we quickly decided it wasn't the right tech stack. So we adapted and we changed. And, that's what the whole industry has to do. We have to adapt, and we have to innovate. And, we talk about too, like who's the next manager of the hotel, could that possibly be vacation rental management? Because, we have this culture of innovation within this industry, and we're moving quick, and we're adaptive. And, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think hotels have to wake up, right? And I think they have woken up because, they went through very rough patches as well now. And, that's what I love about vacation rental. For me, hotels have become a bit more dusty, a bit more, too much in their comfort zone, too much, demand is here, so we'll be fine. I think then they need to innovate. I wouldn't say that hotels cannot learn anything from us. They can learn a lot from us, but it's also vice versa in terms of creating standards and how we execute and everything else. For me, it's incredible to see that the vacation rental industry has become so innovative and agile to manage through this crisis, and that is priceless. So that's definitely something that hotels can learn from. So we've been innovative, to your point, but we also been agile. We had to change our distribution strategy because demand was more domestic. People were changing their travel behavior. We adjusted to that. We saw that in Europe as well. But I wouldn't say that it's not both ways with hotels and vacation rentals. I think it's both ways. I think there's still a lot we can learn from hotels in terms of how we can standardize our operational execution. And I think we need to sort of, the best of both worlds needs to meet, and we can make a better experience for our customers. And I think that's what it's all about.
What I find funny is that when the hotel industry hires innovation teams, their innovation teams say, let's go into the short-term rental market. If you see two industries helping each other, namely with Marriott, they brought in their innovation team, and their innovation team came to them and said, well, let's go into the short-term rental market. And so at the beginning of this conversation, before we kind of got started, you're talking about, and you just touch on it again, just this symbiotic relationship where the short-term rental market is almost forcing the hotel industry to get themselves back up again, shake off the dust, and get started. And you've seen this almost from the early 2000s when you joined the short-term rental market, and you came from digital distribution, was that right? So you saw basically the first wave of technology hit the short-term rental market, and now you're on the cutting edge of it. And how crucial do you see the technology and the continued agility of technology in the short-term rental market to be?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, in the hotels, yes, they're trying to crack it, but I think they're not there yet. At large, I think hotels are trying. They're experimenting with our vertical. They did mistakes. They learned their lessons. I think Marriott is on a great footing to actually learn from the mistakes that others have done on their behalf. In relation to creating a better product and entering the vacation rental world in a different way. Also by understanding what the opportunities of technology really is. So what does that mean for us? Technology, applying technology to a hospitality product is not going to resolve all the challenges that we have, without a doubt. And that's one thing that I love to be in this industry, is that the human capital remains at large very important to this industry. And we call hospitality like the entire hospitality vertical, no matter what. Hospitality is a very wide vertical now. I think we have started to converge. So we're not feeling the outliers anymore. It's like there's vacation rental, which in 2005, when I came into the industry, was the worst industry to be in. It was like, secondhand car dealership or, it was a tough thing to do. And we were not recognized as a respectable travel vertical. I think fast forward, we are the fastest growing travel vertical that there is out there, faster than airlines and cruise ships and everything else. But in order to keep up that momentum, we need to innovate. and therefore we also need to deploy technology that allows us to scale a lot faster and fight the margin compression that we're facing. We're facing dramatic margin compression by the OTAs because we're reliable on third-party demand, and technology gets more expensive, and therefore we need to become more effective with applying technology to reduce our operating costs.
For all the ears that could be listening to this podcast, can you just talk about margin compression in the short term? What is that? And
well, that's very simple. I mean, the more dependent we are on third-party demand, the more the commissions will raise, and therefore the more we're under pressure and it's still making money, while actually our demand gen platforms, which are fastly OTAs, are taking more commissions from us. So, if 50% of your commission goes just to the channel, you don't have much money left to run your operation and your technology and everything else to actually make $1. So, who is creating value here? Are the OTAs cleaning toilets? Are the OTAs changing bed sheets? Are the OTAs taking care of all the problems you have in the kitchen and the boiler not working and the dishwasher not working? No, they're not. They're just bringing the customer. But the hard yards and checking in guests at 3:00 in the morning because they missed their plane and they come late and deal with all the requirements and the complaints and everything else, that's the vacation, that's the professional management, that's the property manager who takes care of that. And I think, so the money goes to the people who create less value to the ultimate guest experience. And I think that's something we need to be very mindful, to the point that we've discussed before. We need to be careful not to be reduced to become glorified cleaning companies. And that's something that margin compression is forcing us to do, because OTAs are delivering us the demand and then we just clean houses. That's all we do. And we do a lot more than that. So we need to be very proud in the industry what we do on a daily basis for our owners, for our guests, and we need to be loud about those services we provide and make people understand who is really delivering the true value to the guest experience and to the owner, and that's the property manager and not the OTA ultimately.
I get so frustrated every time I hear someone say I bought a home, I'm gonna have an Airbnb, all I need to do now is find a cleaner. And I just want to put my face in my palm and shake them and say, no, I mean, you're about to step into the hospitality industry. This isn't just about finding a cleaner. And
no, but I mean, that's a great point. And I think the pandemic has really shown that having heavy dependence on demand is a very dangerous game. When travel stopped for a while and the demand stopped immediately and there was no bookings coming in, because you had no relations to anyone. You were just simply relying on one channel who brought you guests, and they decided to give the refunds to the guests and not to the hosts. And we've already forgotten about that. I mean, how quickly can we forget that we've been really mistreated by some of these channels in how cancellations are really working? And now it's time to rethink the model and say, what is the best way to get our guests into our properties and really get them to understand the true value proposition that we provide.
Yeah. And I'm just still thinking about how did you run a 48,000 unit? How did you do it back in before 2010 when you didn't have any of the technology that exists today? It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, that was the beauty about the market that I was in. I mean, I had the absolute pleasure to work for the oldest vacation rental company in Europe. We were founded in 1965. Our brand was our brand was solid. We had more than 70% direct demand, and the 30% that we had indirect came through travel agents. So we had great relations. People repeated booking. I mean, in those days, let's face it, in 2005, when I started as a CEO, I knew in March if I'm going to hit the budget for the entire year, because people booked 9-10 months out, or their winter holidays 12 months out. So we knew in March if we're going to hit the budget. In 2014, when I left, we didn't know in November if we're going to hit the budget or not, because the booking windows have changed. Many things have changed. The way we book, the digitization. But, we were a super strong consumer brand and we leveraged that. But now consumer behavior has changed. It's become more challenging. But this company has been around since 1965. So,
Wow.
this industry is a lot older than people think it is.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we're coming to an end here. Unfortunately, our time is up with Simon Lehmann. Just wanted to thank you for spending some time with us, sharing your knowledge about this industry. It's well respected across the world. And so we're grateful for you to be here and give us your knowledge, and big thank you from our audience as well. So thanks for tuning in to a short-term rental Intel podcast.
Thank you very much, Killian and Evan. It was been absolutely fantastic. I would have never thought I'm giving a podcast in Colorado Springs, coming all the way from Switzerland. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Your hospitality is absolutely amazing. Hosty is an amazing company, which will go a long way. Keep watching.